Previously on Busing on a Budget.
We got our batteries.
Foam burrito. Dun, dun, dun.
We made a tilting solar rack from demo leftovers, and we started getting our 1200 watts of solar panels up on the roof. Now let's get into the wiring of this beefy electrical setup. Oh, and don't forget to like and subscribe to follow along on our journey to bus life.
Today is a work day. It is Sunday, January something. We've been working way too long on this bus. So my goal today is to actually wrap up a decent amount of projects. Starting number one with the lights up there. So today on the list, we are going to solder the wires, connect them, run it down here, set up a quick little switch to a little battery so that when we come into the truck, we can just flip the lights on and have a bright workspace. So this is what we're dealing with on the electrical. Here, I'll show you my temporary setup. Got some small batteries connected to the lights directly. And they don't really have any charge left. So I actually have to run 120, this is our battery tender. And doing that gets a nice and bright light. We're actually gonna do something a little bit different. We're gonna connect both negatives of the LED lights to this one. So they'll share a common negative and they'll have a unique ground. The reason for that is then instead of running another conduit, you can just run this. It's all just gonna be an auxiliary light system. And this is 12 wire gauge. So you can pump quite a lot of power through this one. There's the soldering. I think we need a little bit more wire exposed. Can we go down a size? What else is there? There's red. Wow. I mean, that might be the move right there, to be honest. So, step one is re-twist. What's in there? All right, so next up, we've got negative and negative twisted together. Now we need to make sure this is run through the wall, and we need to connect the negative to the negative, and then we're partly done. So I don't know if you can see. That's where the solder started to flow. So there should be some kind of connection in there. So we have both negatives done. So next up we need to connect positive of the LED. Yeah, I think we want to feed this one to the battery. Then after we get these soldered together, we've got to put the conduit on. All right, this one can be connected with a red connector. I know that will be possible. Let's see. So the shrink wrap is shrinking. We're running LED lights that are maybe 3 watts each. I think we'll put about 1 or 2 amps like through this wire. It definitely doesn't hurt to have like a good solder joint, but we're not putting a lot of power through these. And they are going to be fused at I think about 10 amps. So we have a 2400 watt inverter that's gonna have a plug by the sink. And so that literally has one loom. It's gonna go from the inverter to the sink, no connections, no solder joints, no whatever. And I think that is honestly a smarter way to do it. You know, a lot of people they'll use wire nuts. A lot of people will just twist the wires together and put electrical tape on it, which is, you know, probably gonna work, but when you're in a big vehicle that bounces around and vibrates a lot while it's driving, like, you want something that's reliable. I found a 250-foot spool. This is conduit speaker wire. It's designed to go outside. It's got an insulation jacket, 12 gauge, which is the same as extension cords. It's the same as most of the wires in the walls. I think a lot of houses use 14 gauge too, but some use 12. So yeah, $40 for a 250-foot roll. Like when you try to pull 2,000 watts through a wire and you've got a joint that has a bad connection which causes resistance, you know, that's going to cause either one, your inverter to work a lot harder and it to fail, or two, might even start a fire. You know, you might have like a hot spot that, you know, burns. So be smart about your joints. That is all she wrote for that. Aren't those fucking easy? Solder joints, wham bam. So we've got one more left to do. Next up, we're gonna try to put this and this together. Alright, now comes the fun part. Keep all the flammable bits away. Make sure that the wires are lined up. And bust out that lighter. It's a little dark in here, right? Let's turn the brightness up a bit. Alright, there's set one. This should be set numero 2. That is so goddamn bright. That's awesome. Love it. Well, at least our videos will have, you know, pretty good lighting. If you guys want a close-up of how that works. One, two. Alrighty. These are one of my favorite styles of switches. Super easy to install. Drill a hole or two, put the wire through, connect the wire. I do wish it was an inline switch, that it just interrupted the power, but can't win them all. Alright, well there you go. Boom, boom. Perfect little switch. Alright, I think it's good enough for now. Wiring comes out on the back. And we're going to connect it to the actual wiring back there. But first, we have to run a second set of holes. Second switch. So it's going to go right up here. Theoretically, these should just go right through pretty easy. So that's what we're looking at. Wham bam. Screw those in after we're done doing the wiring, but that will be two boop boop little hidden de facto dimmer switches, and with them being white, I mean those blend in pretty good, pretty damn good. Like we're gonna have, the goal is to have a seamless build where there's not like a ton of in your face stupid gadgets. Both of these have been semi-installed. They're ready to be permanently installed. Up next is wiring the back of those to the wiring connections, and then running that conduit probably down here. I've got all the wires cut, stripped, ready to be soldered. So the way that this works is we've got plus for a strand, and then a shared neutral going back to the same wire. This is a pretty thick gauge wire, it's 12 gauge, so there's really no issue combining grounds. So we've got 3 there, and then those will connect plus to plus on the output, plus to plus on the output, and then both grounds from the switches will connect to the shared ground here. That'll create one circuit. And then we've got the input wires, and these will connect to the input of the switches. So pretty much we're taking the 3 wires that are in there, we're running them into the switch, and then from the switch we're running right back to the same wire. And that's how we're going to be an interrupt dimmer switch. Alright, so we have everything wired up. You touch this, the lights turn on. Boop, boop.
So cool.
That is the lights successfully wired. So we've got the outputs going to the outputs, inputs all wired to the inputs. We're gonna wrap electrical tape on these, see if we can shove them back into the conduit, and then we'll have electrical for the lights done. I just need to start the 12-volt fuse panel block for them. Then we can connect the external power that we have to the fuse block, and we'll be able to run lights and diesel heater just by plugging in the cord. Should be that easy, hopefully. In case you're wondering, this is Origin direct burial speaker wire. It's good shit. Pretty cheap, $40 for 250 feet. Can't really beat that. Red and black, 2 gauge or 12 gauge. Nice thick 12 gauge wire too. Not like that bullshit, you know. And
This is 16 for comparison. Really, we could probably run the lights on 18, but 16 and 12 is more than enough. Yeah, we still got a whole huge spool of it. I might figure out some other projects to do with it. But yeah, that's going to power some switches around the truck.
Everybody asks, lighters are the approved way to do solder joints. Heat guns, those things are just a scam run by a big heat gun. No, I'm joking. If you have a heat gun, you should 100% use it instead of using a lighter. I do not have a heat gun.